Welcome, everyone. It's the Mike Tech Show, show number 931. Tonight, going to talk about a client that got hit with an HP scam. They thought they were talking to HP. Server migration. That was the big project last Friday. That was actually Thursday night and Friday. It started while I was recording the show. And went in a little bit into Saturday. And then I got some listener email. So first, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a happy holiday, whatever you're celebrating. This is the last show before Christmas. I'm recording this on the 19th of December. Next Thursday, the 26th, that'll be the next show. So far, everything looks good for that. And, we'll continue every Thursday right now with no changes in the schedule. It doesn't seem. So I'm up in Pennsylvania and it is chilly. It's a lot different when it's 35 degrees Fahrenheit here versus where I came from. It was 80 degrees. So, very, very different and, very, very cold. So getting used to that because I'm normally not up here like this. Last Christmas we were all in Florida, but hey, it's fun with family, and that's why the view looks different because it's the Pennsylvania setup. And let's start with the first. A client called us because all of his files were missing. And we're talking to him, and we discover he has a printer problem. And instead of calling us, and he's the employee of a retainer client, and he knows he can call us anytime. He has. But this time, he decided for his printer problem to Google the HP support phone number. And you can guess where this is heading. But this is a little bit different. He calls and they want to remote in to see what's happening. And that should have been the first clue. But it wasn't. He not only let them in, they grabbed every single file, transferred it, and then deleted all of his files and then emptied the recycle bin or whatever they used. We weren't able to recover them. And of course, this is his home system and he has no backups. And we've had multiple discussions before when I would always state, what do you do when your system crashes and you have no files, no pictures? What are we going to do? And he said he would always copy his files. Do not worry. He doesn't need a backup because he does that manually all the time. And I'm like, okay, peace, well, no. And it dawned on him. It took a few minutes because we need to wipe the computer, which is what I want to do. I wanted to schedule time to get this wiped. Instead, he's buying a new computer, and he's since already bought it. And we remotely, set it up for him. But what he didn't realize, he first thought, I have nothing important, nothing. He calls us back a few minutes later, and because we couldn't even remote in, the Synchro was stopped and removed, and so was Instant House Call. And we had him try to re-download Instant House Call. It would not run. It wouldn't execute. So whatever they did, it really, really messed it up. And Taz made a great comment. The School of Hard Knocks has a high tuition. Yes, it does. And he's now realized that he had a document titled Passwords. And it's every password in his life. And I said, begin with changing every single password. I said, you have to go on a different computer. And he has his son, and his son came over, and who's an adult. And my son and I both spoke with the son to help him, navigate where he's got to use a different computer, go online, change every single password. And the problem is he didn't have, you can have a document that's password, but you got to be password protected, and you shouldn't label it password. It should be something only you know. Oh boy. Or use a password manager. There's so many things wrong here where he, didn't embrace backing up anything. And these are things that his company would actually pay for it. So it's not like, this is where I don't understand. My time's billed to the company, even though it's for the employee's home, and they are financial advisors, which makes it even worse. So it was not good, and it finally, he got the new computer that we recommended. At first he didn't. He got Windows Home, Windows 11 Home, and we told him, and this is where he had to get his son, because I had to explain, because you're going to be accessing sites that he falls under FINRA compliance, he has to be pro, because it's got to have BitLocker encryption. We have to put antivirus, anti-malware on it. We got to lock it down. There's other software that actually monitors to make sure that it's locked down. There's lots of things that has to happen, and it wasn't happening. We couldn't do it if it was Windows 11 Home, or would have to upgrade it, and I didn't want to take the time to have to do even the upgrade. So they took it back, and they got a system that met all of our real exact requirements. Anyway, how do you educate? We can tell clients over and over many times, and they don't listen. Goes in one ear and out the other until things like this happen. And he is the third employee from this organization that has been hit. And I have talked about two others, and they fall for the pop-up that says dial the 800 number, even though we've told them you can't do it. Please don't do it. Don't ever do whatever anybody asks. Googling. This is the real problem now, too, and we've talked about this. You can't Google a support phone number. You got to go to the website, and this is what we have to spread the word and teach. You got to go to HP.com and look for the support phone number. You got to go to Dell.com. You got to go to Amazon.com, even though you're not going to find a phone number for them. That is very difficult to find. You can't just Google. I mean, you might get lucky and get the real number, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to find a bad actor sitting at the top of the results that's going to give a false phone number. And I was going to say the only good thing, he didn't give a credit card number, but I think they got everything they needed. And he has to call every bank and credit card, which I know he began doing. And, he has a lot of work ahead of him because they have all the documents. That's the first time I've seen anyone take all the documents and be brazen enough to delete them all. And I was wondering, I don't know why they would delete them all, because then it was very obvious that they have them, where if they just left them, it wouldn't have, he might not even have realized that it was a scam. As a matter of fact, he didn't until he called us, because his documents were all missing. So that was the phone call. It wasn't that, hey, I left somebody that we don't trust connect to the computer. That's why education. That is the way, and backup. It's the only way to recover everything when something bad happens. Okay, server migration story. This is for a dental office where they purchased the new server, but we couldn't get time where they could not see patients because I had to have full access to the software, where we had to stop the services on that software, install it on the new server, and I had to do this with the software company. I was going to mention the software company. I have in the past. I am not, because here's what happened. Friday morning, I had a scheduled appointment at 9 a.m. They called me and we got remoted in. I got them remoted in, and we proceeded to install the software, and this is where it went wrong. It's a simple executable. You answer a couple questions, and then you got to put the target directory. I can take some blame for this because even though he's the expert and needs to be the one doing it, he put just the D drive with no subdirectory. And I didn't realize this. I mean, remember, I've never installed this. This software I inherited on the original server, which was really just a glorified peer server. Here, it's a real server. We have a terabyte C drive, and then we have a 5 terabyte D drive for all the data and the software. Here, he put just D:. When it was done, everything was in the root of D, commingled with other directories that I had. It was a mess. And then he realized what he did. Actually, he didn't realize, I realized. And he tried to undo it and fix it. We uninstalled, and that's when it went ugly, and it was a nightmare. Just a nightmare. 2.5 hours with him on the phone, and I demanded that he escalate. And we finally got someone that they couldn't join the conversation, but I could see on their team viewer the other person. And I'll call her out because her name was Bonnie, and she was phenomenal. So the rest of the day, she fixed everything. Now, how did the data migrate from the one server to the other? I used SyncBack, and during the show last week, it was going from one server to the other. There were, I'm trying to think, it was 500 gig of data. Could you imagine every x-ray ever taken that's associated with a patient? So I went from 500 gig, and it took 8 hours. So I started that about 4:30, and then after the show last Thursday was all posted and everything, I grabbed dinner, and then I also monitored, and it was about 12:30 at night. It finished successfully. Every file completely copied to exactly where I needed it copied. Now, they needed to move just 300 gig into the directory that was properly set up after the second tier person or third tier person got involved. And that took 2.5 hours. So even after all that work, then there was 2.5 hours. Now, there's 20 workstations that the software had to get adjusted to find the new server. And they have a utility that was really good that she showed me. We did 2 workstations together that I documented exactly what we had to do. Then when we were done in the afternoon, I was able to bring in my son, my oldest son, and we divided and conquered. We each took 10 workstations and then went around. Now, in the middle of this, Comcast goes down and we all get disconnected. And that was scary. That was about an hour of a Comcast outage that then everything came back online. And we did nothing because I was frantically trying to get someone that could go to the office there and reboot a router. As a matter of fact, I was getting ready to dispatch my son, who had just finished up with another client, and I had him ready to go out. And we're 45 minutes to an hour away, and especially with traffic and on a Friday, it was going to be messy. And I was going to get him out there, and then it came up, and everything started working because of whatever Comcast did. Oh well, that's it. Anyway, it just, whatever could go wrong went wrong. Whatever obstacle I could run into, we hit it. But at the end of the day, everything was up and running. I would say about 4:30, 5 o'clock, we had every workstation hitting the server. And I'll tell you, it went well when Monday morning we made sure we had no scheduled appointments. And my son and I were here, both of us ready to go out if we had to, because now I'm in Pennsylvania, because on Sunday, that's when I flew up north. That was scheduled. And no calls. None. Everything was working great. And that's how you know you succeeded, when there were no follow-up. Everybody was working. There was one little thing, because where they scan folders to, they had shortcuts, and even though the share was going to the wrong server name, so their shortcut, and I didn't realize every shortcut that was there, it was going to the wrong server name. So I could have gotten clever and had the old server work, do some DNS magic, but I with what I've been going through with DNS with other clients, I was not going to mess with that. So there would have been a way that, yes, I could have programmed where that wouldn't have happened. But you know what? I would have rather, like I did, I had a couple systems to go in and just change the shortcut. Let me tell you, that was a lot easier. So then possibly what could go wrong, with having the old server name redirected to the new one. So trying to think how long, I would say it was about 9 hours of my time. And then, of course, monitoring from the night before. So we definitely put in a lot of time. Now, something this week, my son had to do a Fabs auto backup move from a crashed system that was older. So we wanted to get them into a newer Windows 11 system. And this is a break fix client with just, one system, and got them a nice Dell computer and monitor. This is interesting. You'll like this. It's the only client we have that is a Thunderbird user for their email. And they love Thunderbird, and that's great. But something we have never had to worry about was Fabs. Does it transfer everything properly from Thunderbird? I know it says it does, but we've just never had to worry about it. And it worked perfectly. So Fabs Auto Backup worked beautifully with, my son said he had to do absolutely nothing. Thunderbird just booted, just launched and worked with all of her email accounts, and it was perfect. So wanted to just share that. That's just, nice to hear. And we just never had to worry about Thunderbird. It's funny, years ago, I did try to wean myself from Outlook, and could I do it? The problem with that was I lived on Thunderbird for a long time, and I couldn't make the permanent switch because I had too many clients. And I did this when I was in the corporate world and wanted it as a show topic for me to do. But when I was consulting on my own full time, I had to have Outlook. I have to be able to participate with everything, and I got to be able to answer all the questions and things that happen. So I had to go back to the Outlook world. But Thunderbird works, and it works great. All right, let's get to some email. And the first one is from Robert. And he goes, "Hi, Mike. I ran across an interesting issue a few days ago where a user could not preview PDF files in the preview pane. All other files would preview just fine. The preview pane was turned on in Windows Explorer. Adobe was set to default.pdf for the reader. In the Adobe settings, the preview thumbnails in Windows Explorer were turned on. Everything I researched was turned on and correct. I spent hours over 2 days trying to figure this out. As I was going through the installed apps list, I noticed Microsoft Power Toys was installed. I have had Power Toys installed on other users' computers and did not have any issues with previewing PDF files. So I decided to uninstall Power Toys. Once I uninstalled Power Toys, I was able to view the PDF files in the preview pane. That is very interesting. I've also had Power Toys installed and have never ran into that and could always preview, PDF files." So he continues, "I tried the DuckDuckGo browser and the Brave browser. The only issue I have with Brave is sometimes there is an issue with Paramount Plus. For some reason, it does not always want to play the video files. So I use a DuckDuckGo browser and I don't have a problem. Thanks, Mike. I've been a long-time listener of the podcast, although I haven't listened in a while." That's okay, Robert. Thanks for checking in and sharing that. And he goes, "Merry Christmas and Happy New Year." Robert, back at you and to you and your family. All right. Now, this is from Dexter, who's regular listener and sometimes joins the chat. He's going to use BitTitan Migration Wizard for the first time. And he's going from SureWeb Hosted Exchange 2016 to SureWeb Microsoft 365. Now, I've done this a lot in the past, but and I wrote him back and he says, "How was your experience?" And I was like, "I've never used BitTitan for that migration scenario. I've always used the SureWeb migration team." And there's a whole process for them where you fill out, you answer the questions, and then we get it scheduled and we time when the DNS has to happen. Here's the thing. They do charge now, and I forgot about that. They charge $28 a user, where if you're doing BitTitan by yourself, it's $15 a user. Okay, yes, but it's the cost of doing it. It depends on the client. It's sometimes nicer to put that responsibility in someone else's hands if we can. Now, I'm going through one right now where I'm testing, and I'm using BitTitan to go from Ionis email to Microsoft 365. And I'll report on that as I get deeper and deeper into this. But Dexter wrote me back, "Hey, it's $28. And you know what, Dexter, I know they're charging for migration, but if it's only a few mailboxes, maybe let them do it. But if you want just the experience of doing it, you shouldn't have any problem with BitTitan, because you're going from Exchange, where you got to be the default admin account you're going to have to use. You're going to make sure you know the password, and then you're going to need a full global admin account on Microsoft 365. Now, here's the thing. Is there anything special that BitTitan needs in order to really have full access to all of the Exchange hosted mailboxes? does that default admin have enough of the privileges behind the scenes where you can't control that? So I would do one account and test it. Maybe even create a new email account, throw some email there, and you got to pick a guinea pig and you got to try it. Before, like let's say you had 20 accounts, I would only pay and do one to see that the test works and that you can grab everything before proceeding with handing over the money for all 20. That's my recommendation. And of course, if you run into an obstacle with the one, you may not have a choice, but have to use the migration team because they have access that we do not in terms of having full control over every single exchange account. So that's my advice. So be careful and let me know how you make out. Really appreciate it. That's it for tonight's show. And remember, you can email me anytime, MikeTechShow@gmail.com. You can also see the videos on YouTube, and that's Michael Smith, MTS. And please don't forget, for all show notes and everything about the show, go to MikeTechShow.com. And if you're in the holiday spirit, you want to support the show, click the donation button. I would greatly appreciate that. I want to wish everybody a safe and happy, Merry Christmas. I was going to say New Year, but I do have one more show before New Year's. So that'll be the final show of the year, which will be next Thursday night, the 26th. And that's it. See everybody next week. Same time, same channel. Bye-bye.